What's going on, guys? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live. Today, we got 3 games to pick against the spread for, and then we'll talk about the injury situation of the Blazers, maybe some targets that they can go out and sign to help them out, and that is the plan for tonight's stream. Not a whole lot on the docket here, but we will, take your questions a little bit as well. And yeah, that is the plan. Hope you guys are having a good day so far. Hope you guys are having a good Thursday. We didn't stream Monday because there's a game, and then the game last night got canceled. We'll talk a little bit about that. Who knows the status for Friday's game? That hasn't come out yet, right?
No, it's canceled already.
Oh, Friday's game is canceled. Okay, I missed that. I've been under a rock today. So, so you got no game tomorrow, no game yesterday. So the Blazers actually get some time off here. We'll talk about maybe the impact of that, and maybe it's a good thing. Honestly, we'll get into that. But before we do that, let's get into picks against the spread. Here was our records. Here's our updated records and how we did a week ago last Thursday. Westbrook was the only one to have any sort of success on Thursday. If you look at our double downs too, we're all struggling with that. Trevin keeps doubling down on the wrong team. Trevin, you're supposed to double down on the team that is going to win against the spread, not lose. Come on, man. So Eric is the only one over 500. It's hard to pick this year just with how much lineups are up in the air going into each game and no home court advantage to bank on. So Westbrook is picking it up compared to the mods, though. He started off a little bit rough, and he's gaining ground here. So we only got 3 games today, sadly. Maybe we might have to just do a picks against the spread stream on Saturday, considering we won't have any post-game streams pretty much this week. So I don't know. Maybe we could do something like that, because I definitely want to pick more, and this is the first time we've done it since last week. So anyway, we still got games, though. So you got the Bucks versus the Lakers. This game being played in Milwaukee at 4:30 p.m. Milwaukee is a 2-point favorite. I am going to roll with actually injury situation. Reese, you got the.
I think Reese had to go to soccer practice. He couldn't wait anymore.
Oh, rip. Did he give you the picks?
Yeah, he picked the Lakers and he's doubling down.
Okay. I am also gonna pick. 2-point favorite, home court advantage, doesn't matter. See, if you look at like home versus road records, it doesn't really seem like there's any home court advantage this year. So I'm trying to remember that when I pick. I am also going to roll with the Lakers as well.
All right. I'm looking for Trevin and Westbrook's picks. I'm actually going to go with the Bucks in this one.
I basically just took home court advantage out of the equation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder if like later in the season, once, teams are a little bit more worn down, if like travel will affect things, sleeping in a hotel compared to your own bed. It doesn't seem to be affecting a whole lot so far. I kind of, missed that added element to this. You got Westbrook going Bucks, Trevin going Bucks.
Lakers won 13-2, so Chat's going
Lakers in a landslide. So split picks here. Good to see. Let's move on to game number 2. You got the Warriors versus the New York Knicks. This game is being played in San Francisco. And Golden State is a 4.5-point spread. I am going to take Golden State, and I'm going to double down on Golden State here. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to get it out of the way now. Mods, if you want to, I don't know. Like, we could wait till after, too. But with only 3 games, yeah, this is definitely going to be my double down. I think New York doesn't have anybody to guard Steph Curry. I don't know. You do got Tom Thibodeau there as the coach, but Steph Curry's been going off. Golden State's been playing really well. New York's been surprisingly competitive, but I'm going to take Golden State in this one.
All right. Got you down. Trevin is taking Golden State as well. I think the Laker game might have been miscounted, but I'm going to roll with the Warriors too. They've been playing pretty good lately, and the Knicks have been pretty bad lately, so I'm going to roll with them also. And Westbrook is doubling down on the Warriors.
Austin Wax says, can he change? Yeah, just delete your last comment and post a...
Oh, that's gonna mess up someone who's counting right now.
Yeah. Definitely try not to change your picks. You got Knicks, Warriors, Knicks. I mean, this is very split. Knicks. You got, I see 8 for Knicks. And Austin Wack wanted to change from Golden State to the Knicks, too. So it looks like chat's going Knicks.
Okay.
What was Reese's pick?
Reese picked the Knicks.
Man, Reese really becoming a soccer player. Shout out to Reese. And then you got Westbrook rolling with the Warriors, and that will be his double down.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Reese and chat going with the Knicks. You got me and Westbrook doubling down on the Warriors. You got Eric and Trevin. They might double down. We'll see. And then our last game of the day. Only 3 games today. Very skinny slate here. You got the Jazz taking on the Pelicans in Salt Lake City. Tipping off at 7 p.m. Utah is a 7-point favorite. I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'm going to let you pick first.
Pelicans have been playing like crap lately. Jazz have been playing really good.
Which means
this is crazy. I'm gonna pick.
It's going to be a close game.
Yeah.
There's no logic this year. That's what I've realized. Every time I try and be logical about a pick, it's just rough. What is Reese going with?
Reese is going with the Jazz.
All right. Trevin is going with the Jazz. Trevin also says double down on the Warriors.
Okay.
Michael says, Sam Torrey, these games are hit or miss. Yeah, man, I mean, I got in a pretty good groove at the end of last year picking games. And I was just using, like, I got kind of some of the logic down, and I like, went on a run of a tear where I was just on fire. And I came from behind and beat Eric at the buzzer, basically. You know, that was nice. But this year, I don't know. It's still early on, but it's like I'm trying to like use like the same kind of logic I did, and it's just pointless. It's just pointless to even like think too hard about it. Westbrook is going Pelicans. I am gonna go Jazz. I'll take the Jazz. I like the way they've been playing. Normally they start off slow. This year it's not been the case whatsoever. And then chat has 3 more votes.
Just let me know who with the even if it's a few less picks, just let me know what it is, because
I see 9 for the Pelicans, 10 for the Pelicans.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be.
We'll just have them vote for their double down like after this, since there's literally only 3 games.
Okay.
So it'll be easy. So instead of just counting, so you got chat going Pelicans. It looked like. I saw 10 for the Pels. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I see 10 for the Pelicans. So it looks like chat is going Pelicans. So another split game. So at least we got some splits today with the 3 picks. My alarm is going off. Get rid of that. So here we go. Here's chat's picks. Chat, I want you guys to vote on your double down. You're picking the Lakers in a game where Milwaukee is favored by 2. You're picking the Knicks in a game where the Warriors are favored by 4.5. And you are picking the Pelicans in a game where Utah is favored by 7. So which of those three teams do you want to double down on? Let me know in chat.
Chat took all the underdogs tonight.
I know. The only game that's not an even split is this one. You still got two for New York.
Looks like it's going to be Lakers, most likely.
Lakers are going to be the double down. All right. Mine was the Warriors. Trevin's was the Warriors. Who else's was the Warriors?
Westbrook was the Warriors. Reese also had the Lakers. And I am going to take... Oh, don't want to go against you guys or with you guys.
Just take whatever your heart desires.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Bucks. Make it fun.
Alrighty. So yeah, that's a big opportunity for Chat to gain. Chat is only 2 games behind you, so that game right there would make up the difference. So you could see some movement despite there only being 3 games tonight. So anyway, that is picks against the spread. So you have these games being canceled between the Blazers and the Grizzlies yesterday and tomorrow, and we teased at this possibility. Memphis was dealing with some stuff, but they still played their game that they had scheduled on Monday.
I don't get it, man.
And
Valanciunas tested positive on Sunday after their game Saturday night, and then they decided to play anyway and then contact trace starting Wednesday. Like, I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, the kind of sequence of events there didn't really add up to me either. But yeah, so you get, honestly, okay, do you like that these 2 games got canceled or no?
I'm torn on that. One is they're going to be made up any games that are canceled later on in the season in the second half of the schedule, so that bodes well for us possibly having our complete roster back at some point, including Dame or CJ and Nurkic. But I don't know. And there's also in theory, they should be working on some things in practice. They'll now have 6 days in between games, so that's 5 practices where they should be implementing some new maybe plays for Anthony Simons in the second unit, some defensive schemes they have several days in a row to work on, to where we maybe shouldn't be willing to hear some excuses that they haven't had practice time and things like that. But I don't have any faith that we are actually working on the things we need to work on. So I don't know. I'd almost rather just play the games because they're missing Jaren Jackson and Valanciunas, obviously, but so they'll have people back healthy too. So it might even itself out.
Yeah, I don't know. Like getting games postponed that we wouldn't have had CJ and Nurkic for, I'm not against whatsoever. Yeah. It's kind of nice to take a break in general. This schedule has been pretty jam packed, so it's nice to take a break. It's nice that it's not us, so they can practice. I don't really see any downside to it. There really is just absolutely no downside to it for us. Obviously, Memphis is dealing with positive tests and whatnot, and you don't want to see that. But just for us, I don't see any negatives. I can't find any.
Just the only thing I could think of is, a lot more games and less days, having to make up more towards the end of the year.
Yeah, but I mean that's probably going to be the case for every team, right. So I don't think it's really a disadvantage to us. And I don't know. You're talking about Jaren Jackson Jr., who's like very injury prone, and John Morant is a little injury prone. So who knows if they'll even have those guys for that game. Hopefully we can have CJ and Nurkic back and have a little bit of an advantage in that regard.
See, I think we should have had an advantage without those guys, but that's just me.
Well, I agree with that. But you look at a team like Memphis, who had been missing John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., their 2 best players for the majority of the season. And they're 7-6 right now. Yep. They're above 500, and they're missing Morant. They're missing their 2 best players for the majority of the season. Imagine if we were missing Lillard and McCollum for as much time as Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. missed. The rest of our roster is comparable to what Memphis was trotting out there, but there's no way we'd be above 500 right now. I just think that's kind of interesting to think about.
And I don't know if you saw this, but they canceled Memphis's next 3 games. So the game Friday and their next 2 games after that. So must be having some
the
problems.
2 games against Sacramento, some serious problems. Because they on Sunday and Monday they were going to play a back-to-back at home versus Sacramento, and that is now out the window. It's just
go ahead.
It's just like it's a little, I don't know, ironic probably isn't the right word, but it's we only had 2 stretches where we played the same team twice in a row during this first half of the schedule, and of course right before one of those stretches that team deals with this, so we have 2 games in a row postponed. You know, like that's
interesting. Having the back-to-back games if that team can't play.
So yeah, you know, it's just 2 games in a row postponed just because we were playing the Memphis Grizzlies twice in a row, and they're just having their situation right now. So, but going into this game, they actually, this is their 5th. They've already had 5 games postponed. They had a game against Minnesota postponed that was scheduled for January 15th, so they're going to be have a jam-packed schedule, and they're going to be trying to make up a lot of games. But they had won 5 in a row going into this slate with us. They had beat the Brooklyn Nets, who I don't think Brooklyn had KD that game or Kyrie. They beat Cleveland, and Cleveland's been decent this year. They beat Minnesota. They beat Philadelphia. Philadelphia, no ads play. Oh, yay, no ads played. Philadelphia, that game, didn't have Joel Embiid. So they've gotten 5 wins in a row, but none of them have been super impressive. They did beat Phoenix on Monday. So they were playing good basketball. They started off 2-6 and had won 5 in a row. So they had been playing good basketball. It wasn't going to be an easy game for Portland by any means, especially missing CJ Nurkic. So yeah, I mean, hopefully they can use this practice time to build, to work on improving some of the things that they need to improve, and hopefully Portland can come out and not drop a game left on this homestand. Now they only have 2 games left on this homestand against the Knicks, who are 7-8, playing good basketball, and Oklahoma City, who is like 6-6 somehow. I don't know how Oklahoma City is 6-6, but they are. So I mean, you're talking about 2 teams that aren't good, but they're like overachieving and playing 500 basketball right now. So it'll be interesting to see how we match up. Maybe. I mean, the next 2 games after that, we play Houston, who's not good. They're 4-9, and then we play Chicago, who's not good. Hopefully, we don't blow another 20-point lead. And then we play the Bucks and the Sixers. So then it toughens up, right? Like through the rest of January, it's pretty easy, but in February, without our guys, I'm just looking at the schedule and I'm worried. We gotta bank as many wins as we can right now, because things are gonna toughen up in February.
Yeah, and so let me just mention 2 things. One, it came out today that possibly the officials in Tokyo have already decided to cancel the Olympics. They just haven't announced it yet. And we saw that this whole schedule was meant to conclude before the Olympics, so players that wanted to play in it could. So if that gets canceled sometime before the second half of the season gets announced, the NBA could actually push back the games a little further and spread them out a little more. So it would suck to not have the Olympics, especially if someone like Dame was going to play in it, but not the end of the world, considering they could make the schedule a little better after that.
Yeah. 12 minutes ago, there is a report that IOC officials still plan for the summer games, but then 10 minutes ago, I think you say Reuters, I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but they dropped an article saying that Japan privately concludes that they should be canceled. So yeah, you got IOC officials saying they still plan for them, and then you got articles saying Japan is concluding they'll be canceled. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It'd be interesting, if it gets canceled and you get, the playoffs pushed back into August, and then you have another quick turnaround and start the season late October or November. That'd be interesting from a timetable thing.
I wanted to get to Michael's question. He says, do you think the NBA should postpone the season with how many games are getting postponed every day? I think they need to just push through and get as many games out of it, because the more games they get in, even if several teams miss a bunch of games, the easier it'll be to make a schedule for the second half. If they just postponed it now, then they're stuck trying to do like 60 games or whatever it is for like in a shorter amount of time period.
Yeah.
And they don't want to cancel games completely. So the more they can get in with teams that can play them, I actually think they should do something a little different. Like, for example, Friday night, Milwaukee had one of their games postponed or whatever. Like, why not? They have a back-to-back, so maybe not this perfect example, but like if two teams have games canceled, but the other two teams don't have an issue with the virus or any reason why they shouldn't be playing, then maybe just kind of reschedule games that way on the fly and try to get games in. And
I just feel like that would create a hole where they were supposed to play that they wouldn't have time to fill, or like the ability to fill. You know what I mean? It's just kind of moving the hole somewhere else. So like if there's a way they could, I don't know, but like if it would like spread out games a little more for teams that have some postponed, it would be better, like the Blazers case, you have like 6 days in a row off. If you could have a game scheduled in the middle of that and, spread it out, 3 days off and then a game and then a couple days off and then another game, and then later in the season, maybe you don't have a back-to-back because that back-to-back game got moved up. Like, something like that would be beneficial for teams that have games canceled, not of their own doing, because the other team is having issues. Obviously the Grizzlies can't play anyone right now. So yeah, that is an interesting idea. That they shouldn't cancel the season. We knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Anybody who didn't expect this to happen this season, it was going into this too naive. You look at baseball and how you had 14 games in a row of the St. Louis Cardinals canceled or something like that to start the season. We're talking about 2 weeks, and we're talking about like 14 games. Now they can play doubleheaders and whatnot, but you're only talking about a 60-game schedule that baseball did. We knew this was going to happen. Almost every sport has had games canceled. We're still like getting in a decent amount of games. This is literally the first games that Portland has had canceled all season long. Other teams have had bigger issues, but that's why they released the schedule in 2 parts anyway. It was because they knew games were going to be canceled. They knew this was going to happen, and they knew they'd have to reschedule some. So why even release the second part to the schedule when you can reschedule these games later on? So if the Olympics get canceled, that makes things even easier. They can push back the finals a little bit more and have no problem. At some point, you expect the league to be vaccinated in, maybe April, May. I don't really know what the priority is going to be for athletes and whatnot and how the NBA will handle that, but that's a whole nother conversation. Just regardless, it's going to be fine. We knew this was going to happen, and there's no reason they should cancel the season.
Yeah, and I have some information on that too, but let me just get the... Howard Moss says, is there a probability the NBA could have another bubble? I would say no chance of that unless it's like really bad towards the playoffs or something, and they were like, okay, these are the playoff teams, let's do the playoffs in a bubble, and it's just like a couple month period, and then as you lose you can leave the bubble or whatever. That might be a possibility, but I don't see the regular season going back in a bubble. And I definitely don't see a high chance of the playoffs even doing it. I'm just saying that's probably the only way it would happen that way.
Yeah, I just think I don't think there's really any chance that the playoffs go back to a bubble anyway. It's like if you're having the season in market right now when the pandemic is at its worst, it's winter. The vaccine rollout is still very minimal. I don't expect in the playoffs during the summer, where a lot of players will likely be vaccinated, and hopefully a lot of the public will also be vaccinated. So and it will be summer, so transmission isn't generally as high in the summer as it is in the winter. We've already seen that with this pandemic. Like, all those factors combined lead me to believe there's really no chance the playoffs are in a bubble either, and it definitely won't be the regular season either. So I don't expect the NBA to ever go back to a bubble, at least in regards to this pandemic as we know it.
And for those of you that missed it, it looks like the NBA is changing its stance, and money's going to win out. We saw them say, at least Adam Silver said, that they would not skip the line and they would wait their turn to get vaccinated like everyone else. But it came out recently that he's throwing out the idea that maybe the NBA should get vaccinated too, as a public display of how safe it is, and if all these athletes are getting it, use it as like a public service. So that's how they're spreading it. It's just about like not missing games and getting the season in and stuff like that, and they have the money to possibly cut in line like they said they wouldn't. But I think that's what's going to happen is they're gonna end up getting vaccinated sooner than they were saying they were going to, and that the athletes themselves will probably be fine because they're vaccinated, and I'm sure that'll include most of the staff and stuff as well.
I mean, how positive of an impact would athletes getting it, being public figures, being healthy individuals and whatnot, like I don't know. Like, it's kind of hard. It is hard to speculate how much of a positive impact that could have. I mean, and you would expect the league, if the league just was like, we need to vaccinate our players so that we don't cancel games and we don't lose money and blah blah blah. Like, if that was their reasoning, they would definitely try and portray it as something else, like something, as like a service to the public, So I don't know how much stock to put in that. Like, I kind of see the logic with like having public figures get vaccinated to try and, especially people that you watch play basketball once every couple of days, especially into the future after they're vaccinated, and saying that, oh yeah, they're completely fine. Like, I kind of understand the logic, but I would expect them to have that logic even if their intentions were just monetary.
Right. It can't hurt, but yeah, I'm not like, oh, Damian Lillard got vaccinated, now I'm for sure getting vaccinated. Like, I don't care. But I guess there are people who would see that like, oh, well, they all get it.
Yeah. So, I wonder. I mean, there's really no other sports that will be in the middle of their season. Maybe baseball. But baseball's played outdoors. It's I don't know. Like, it's a little, and it's more socially distanced, of course.
Hockey is,
yeah. So we'll see how they handle it. It'll be interesting to see how these different sports leagues handle it. Obviously, if you have a high percentage of NBA players get vaccinated, you're not going to have many issues. You're if you get like 80% of the league vaccinated, you're probably not going to have any postponed games. Because here's the thing, even if somebody on a team does test positive, then okay, they isolate and quarantine. If like the majority of their teammates are vaccinated, they're fine. Like, that's the whole thing with the vaccine. So that's the thing.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, like that's the thing is once you have high vaccine uptake from the players, you're not really going to have any of these issues. And if the NBA is really like looking to set an example, like, you could be talking about in the next month and a half, 2 months, both the majority of players having both shots. So that's what, late March, like that. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but there's no reason to cancel the season. It's been doable as is in a state that is, not great in terms of this pandemic, and it's only going to get better. So, hopefully, I don't know. like some people say, hopefully the Blazers don't have more games canceled. I honestly am down with them having games canceled at this point. Um, I'm 100% cool with that. Less games that we have to miss CJ and Nurkic for, right? So, I'm down with it.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see what those second half schedules look like, though, with some of these teams.
Speaking of CJ and Nurkic, we have news since we last spoke to everyone on both of them. CJ obviously is going to be reevaluated in 4 weeks, and Nurk had surgery, and they said he's reevaluated in 6 weeks after originally saying he'd be out for at least 8 weeks. So maybe he's going to be back a little sooner than normal. I'm not holding my breath with anything on the Blazers, but
yeah. I expect that to be like a 7 to 8 week return for Nurkic. Probably maybe closer to 8, and then I expect it to be maybe a 6 week return for CJ. Because normally reevaluation dates aren't when they're coming back. Mm-hmm. Normally it's still at least a couple of weeks. So 6 weeks without CJ and 8 weeks without Nurkic, you gotta be prepared for that. That's not what we wanted going into the season.
Nope.
Still gonna hold Stotts accountable for a number of issues that existed with CJ and Nurkic. There's a number of issues that will get excused due to their absence, even though they existed with those two guys here. There's a number of things Stotts could do to maximize this team's chances for treading water without those two guys. And there are things that I don't really expect him to do. So here's the thing. I'm just looking at this like from a defensive standpoint. The team shouldn't be that much worse. You know, you lose CJ, who might be our worst defender outside of Melo. Like, losing him doesn't really hurt you defensively. Losing Nurkic definitely does, but I think Giles is a decent defender, and Giles is picking up some of his minutes. Kanter has done a good job by his standards defending, you know. Obviously, he's nowhere near Nurkic. So, I mean, personnel-wise, I think we're a little bit worse defensively, but not by much. And when you look at all our problems defensively, so many of them are fixable that I think that we should be better defensively than we've been so far this season if we fix some of these issues, like in spite of the injuries and whatnot. So you look at it in that way, it's like, okay, our defense should be a little bit better than what it's been. Offensively is where it hurts, obviously, but you still got Damian Lillard. You still got Rodney Hood. If he's like back and confident, he can give you buckets. You got Enes Kanter. You still got scorers on this team. Gary Trent Jr., Carmelo when he has it rolling. You still got scorers on this team. So, like, offense is the biggest drop off, but you still got talent here. The thing is, you just can't run things like you ran when you had CJ with the bench lineup, and you just have him create a bunch of stuff and run pick and roll and just rely on him. Because they've been trying to use Anthony Simons in that way, and it's not working. Anthony Simons is not CJ McCollum or Damian Lillard. So this is where the coaching aspect comes in, and where I'm going to hold Stotts accountable. He needs to coach and adapt to the lineup he has now, because it's different than the lineup he had before. He doesn't have Yusuf Nurkic. He doesn't have CJ McCollum. Here's the thing. A lot of things that you did with Yusuf Nurkic, you could do with Harry Giles. Harry Giles is a good passing big as well. And we haven't really seen that, so I want to see more of that. But you can't just rely on Dame creating everything from the perimeter when he doesn't have a guy like CJ next to him. Because defenses are just going to key up on Dame even more. If teams are definitely going to do that, we have to be prepared to handle it, which we haven't shown. We have to be prepared to handle a trap, so that's an area that I'll be holding Stotts accountable. But overall, like, it just comes down to, for me, mostly set design and where players are getting the ball, and if they're able to get the ball in a position where they can take advantage and make things happen, like compared to Anthony Simons dribbling up top trying to attack one-on-one or through a pick and roll against a set defense, which isn't really where he excels. So there's still a number of areas where Stotts should be held accountable and should be criticized if he's not doing a good job in. The injuries don't really excuse a poor coaching effort despite these injuries. Yeah.
And so I missed this interview, but Shervin is saying that Stotts said in his last interview that the style of offense will have to change without CJ. It should have changed with CJ too. That's what makes me mad. Like this guy just rolls out this like ISO pick and roll heavy offense with no off ball action, stagnant, like no passing. We're worst in the league in assists or we're 28th in assists per game, not worse, but same thing. We were worse last year. And then we're 29th in assists per possession, 29th in assists per field goal made. So it's not like a pace of play type thing. The reason why we're so bad in assists, it's clearly the lack of ball movement and all that kind of stuff. So it's just frustrating to me that he wouldn't say that it needed to change with CJ. It should have changed earlier than this. So if losing CJ is the catalyst he needs to change it, then yes, maybe that's a good thing. And then maybe it'll open up some things that they see for when CJ gets back. But I'm through thinking that anything's going to change with this coaching staff. So.
Yeah, I mean, we heard he was going to change the defense and we were going to run a lot of different defensive stuff, and we've barely seen it. So I'm not going to put any stock into him saying the offense needs to change. I like to hear it, but I'd love to see it. And we've heard change. We haven't really seen it. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But, I mean, you still got talent on this team. You still got guys that can provide a lot for you offensively. You still got Damian Lillard. This roster is not a bad roster, even without CJ Nurkic. I still think this is at least a 500 roster without those guys. I 100% do. This is why we went out and got the depth. I mean, you look at the, assuming they're going to keep starting Rodney Hood, you still got Gary Trent Jr., you still got Carmelo off the bench, and Harry Giles, I think, can be a good backup big. He just needs to get comfortable. So you still got some guys there. And Anthony, if he's not being tasked with, doing what Dame and CJ does, I think he, for 12 minutes a game could be fine as a backup point guard. It's just, kind of the way he's used makes him look a lot worse. He's having to, come off screens where nothing's happening, and he basically has to create a shot, so he's pulling up from three. I'd rather move the ball. Maybe he gets catch and shoot looks, or maybe he catches the ball with a defense scrambling and has a lane to drive to the rim. You know what I mean? Instead of having to drive one-on-one. So that's the thing. I think, you still got an okay bench personnel-wise, and your starting lineup, I mean, you got, Rodney Hood's a little better defender than CJ. You still got, Rocco. You got Derrick Jones Jr. Canner's been having a great season by his standards. He's been good by his standards defensively, and he's been really good offensively and insane on the board. So, you still got some guys here, man. And I still think this team is a 500 roster. We'll see if they do anything to add to that, but regardless, I still am not super down on this team, and I'm not giving up on this season just because of these injuries.
Yeah, if we would have lost CJ for 4 weeks last year, we would have been pretty much screwed because we didn't have the depth. Even with CJ, our depth sucked. So but we talked about this going into the season. We were 11 deep at one point. And that didn't include guys like Nas and Simons, who we weren't sure what they were going to give us this year. So far, Simons hasn't looked good in his minutes. I don't think Nas, we can conclude anything from his few minutes he's played. Those guys are going to have to step up into roles they might not have thought they were going to have this season. But I'm kind of excited to see if Nas can do something in those minutes and show us something like Gary Trent did last year when he got a chance in his second year. But other than that, I feel like we're still, at least 8 deep in terms of our normal rotation that we still have. So I don't really think we should expect a huge drop off in play. And I actually think we should be better defensively, because that's what everyone says. How's Stott's going to have a good defense when he's got a miniature backcourt, well, we don't have one now for the next 4 weeks. So let's use that same energy to not excuse that for his defense. If the defense is still crappy, it's clearly Stotts, not the miniature backcourt. And that's always bothers me too, because like if you have two guards, like one of them is fine. It's just one of them that's undersized because you're playing him at the two, right? So like
Yeah.
Dame isn't undersized really for a point guard. It's just so that bothers me too. But like I don't know. It's just like all these people like you still have Dan Marang like we need to trade CJ no matter what still and whatever trade everyone but Dame and that kind of crap. Like those kind of people just will use any excuse possible to not blame the coaching staff, and I have no idea why, but there's no reason why with better defensive personnel other than like you said maybe Nurkic for Cantor is a slight downgrade, but we weren't like using Nurkic really well anyway, so like I don't know, it should be better than we've been playing on defense, and there's no excuse for it in my opinion to be worse than it was without CJ because like obviously offense you can make a strong case for that, and I completely agree with that. But defense, there's no excuse in my mind.
Yeah. So, we'll hold the Colts accountable. You'll probably have a lot of people out there willing to just toss out the injury excuse no matter what, even for the team being flawed in areas where they were flawed before those guys got hurt, and areas that aren't personnel dependent. Like. Help side positioning, defensive rotations, running certain schemes, running certain sets, having the team give consistent effort. Just a few examples of things that aren't dependent on having CJ and Nurkic. Boxing out, that's another one. There's a number of things. I'm sure you guys could come up with more. Things that aren't personnel dependent, that aren't dependent on having CJ and Nurkic, that missing CJ and Nurkic shouldn't be the excuse for us struggling with those things. But here's what's going to happen. The media is going to excuse Stotts in regards to those aspects of the game which aren't personnel dependent, aren't CJ and Nurkic dependent, and they're gonna excuse us struggling in those areas because it's easy. It's so easy to just sit back here and say, oh, well, he doesn't have Nurkic or CJ. What do you expect him to do? Look at this roster. That's easy. Bro, they take the easy way out when it comes to analyzing some of these things. And it's just kind of the casual way to do things. Just chalk everything up to injuries and move on. Doesn't take any sort of thought. Doesn't take any sort of logical process of the game of basketball. So we'll continue to think the game in a proper way. That's why we're your number one stop for Blazers coverage. But on Twitter and with the media, you'll just hear personnel excuse. You'll hear injury excuse for literally everything, even when it doesn't apply.
Well, you're already starting to see people turn on it being Olshay's fault. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, yes, the roster is not perfect or whatever, even with how deep it was. We weren't 100% on board of all the moves, but that's because this coach isn't fitting the stuff to the roster. But like he has a deep enough roster. I mean, why doesn't he get a pass? Like Olshey had a good roster, but Dame and Nurk got hurt. Like, why doesn't he get that same pass that Stotts got? I don't understand. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Hopefully Dame doesn't get hurt. You said Dame got hurt. Hopefully Dame doesn't get hurt.
That
would ruin our season for sure. But yeah, I mean, like his whole job is to like give Stotts players. So when his players get hurt, Olshey doesn't get the pass, and Stotts gets the pass, even though Stotts has a ton of control of like what he can do with this team still. Like, bro, just having a couple guys get hurt doesn't mean a coach can't coach. It's ridiculous that people actually try and make it sound like Stotts can't do anything because he has two guys hurt. Like it's just ridiculous, and it's just like it's such a bad take, and it's such a bad like way to think about things. It just boggles my mind. So I don't know, it's ridiculous, man. The same people that were like, oh, I love this roster Olshey put together, now that there's CJ and Nurkic got hurt, they're turning on him. What has changed with what Olshey has done? I understand maybe be like, okay, he needs to go out and get a backup point guard, but people are like turning on him hard, way too hard. like for it to just be, oh, well, he doesn't have a third string point guard. He hasn't signed Brandon Knight yet, or something like that. He hasn't signed Gary Payton II. So screw O'Shea. Like, that's completely different energy than they use for Terry Stotts, right? It's like the first sign of adversity. Who do people turn on? The car salesman, not the nice guy, right? And people just look at Stotts as the nice guy, and O'Shea's kind of the slick car salesman, right? It's easier to hate on the car salesman than the nice guy. So that's where things are going with this. That's where things will continue to go with this. I'm expecting things to kind of turn to how they were last year with some of the hate that we'll get, because we're actually willing to criticize the coach for things like defensive positioning and rotations, and we think Stotts can still do a good job coaching if he wants to, while other people think he's just completely powerless. So yeah, that's where the seasons go. Sucks. Didn't want it to go that way.
Yeah, I saw one tweet from I think it was that Eminem guy. He said, like, imagine losing one game after like winning 5 of 6 and thinking it's Stott's fault or something. I'm just like, what?
What is what is how okay? See, that's just the surface level stuff I'm talking about, man. Like. Just where's the correlation between losing a game and it being Stott's fault? We're not saying it's Stott's fault just because of the loss, just because we look at a box score and see a loss and blame Stotts. We say it's Stott's fault because the problems that have plagued this team all season aren't being fixed, right? And it's like people can't understand how this team could have serious problems and still win 5 of 6. We have talent. We have a ton of talent. We, obviously now we're injured, but we, during that 6-game stretch with Nurkic and CJ, we had a ton of talent. So we were still winning games, but despite some serious flaws. The thing is, a lot of those games were close against far inferior teams, like the Atlanta Hawks, which we didn't have Nurkic for, but some games earlier in that stretch, and before that stretch, we blew a 20-point lead to the Bulls. So that shows you that this team is not really clicking on all cylinders or anything. The thing is you definitely expect there to be some flaws, but you expect them to improve. So if the flaws the team has isn't improving and they're still winning games, that's still going to be an issue. Because what happens when you go up against a legitimate playoff team like the Indiana Pacers? You lose by 24. And then what happens if you have one injury? Oh, now you don't have as much room for error. And then you lose. And then you lose. So like that's why he's getting criticism. It's ridiculous how like people are like tweet like that. But they'll never actually listen. They'll never honestly listen to any of the actual criticism that's being laid forth. They'll never honestly actually listen to it. So it's literally just it's just disingenuous in general.
Well, then you have stuff like, okay, so we win 5 out of 6, right? But our defense is still, I think, somewhere around 28th, right, out of 30 teams in defensive rating. And like almost every defensive statistic that team base judged, like how they're judged and stuff like that, we're bad at. So like what's changed other than we have talented scorers who can outscore teams? But that's not, we've seen that time and time again. That's not how you beat good teams, or it's not a recipe to win in the playoffs. And that's why we point that out, that just because we won 5 out of 6 games doesn't mean we're playing well, or that our defense is improving, or that we're seeing some sort of growth that's going to help us later on in the year, even though we're struggling to win these games. We're playing the exact same way we played in years past. That's proven that it will not get us to where we want to be, and where both Tori and I believe this team is capable of getting. And so that's the frustrating part, is like we win those games and then it's almost like, oh, see, we don't have to change anything. We beat the Hawks by coming back from 20 down or whatever. Like that doesn't excuse the fact that they're not doing the right things to win games when it'll matter. And so I hope they improve that. I do hope they make a couple of roster moves just to shore up their end of their bench and provide a little depth in case. What happens if someone has to miss a game because of contact tracing or you know just a little like calf strain, like a couple players have had little muscle strains here and there. Gary Trent missed a game or two. Hood missed a couple games. Like I think we just need a couple of players that aren't Blevins and Ellaby that could provide some depth. Some quality veterans would be nice. We always only have room for one of those guys, and then we do have the two-way spot. It looks like they might add a third two-way spot if the NBA Players Association approves that. So we need to take advantage of those. I think. I don't think we can just have like 10 guys available for games and stuff. But other than that, that's the only thing I'll definitely criticize Olshey for. The Blevins decision was terrible, and we kind of wasted that pick. We've seen other teams. I keep bringing up Houston with Jason Tate and Mason Jones, who are actually like starting games and providing good minutes for them that they signed with their two-way contracts or as undrafted free agents. And like guys like that, you got to find those guys and help rosters. So when you have these injuries, you have guys ready to step up, not guys who are only on the team because they're relatives of our best player.
Yeah. But overall, I think this team will be
right.
It'll be hurt, but I think this team can be fine. We'll have to wait and see on if they actually are fine. I just got to sit back and watch. Like, theoretically, they fix some of these issues and they, kind of institute some offense that makes things easier on guys that aren't Dame and CJ. It'd be nice to institute offense that make things easier for Dame too, but they institute things that put, the role players in a better position to succeed without one of those two stars on the floor. Then this team should still be able to win some games for sure and be able to tread water. Come out of this with a 500 or better record, and when you get those two back, and that's successful in my opinion. This team's benchmark with this lineup is 500 basketball, which I think that's very realistic for this team. You still got Dame, you still got some very solid role players. So now is like the time where like Stotts earns his keep, right? The best coaches do well in times of adversity and when they're missing star players, and they adjust and they adapt. So if everybody thinks he's some great coach, then it shouldn't be, oh, he's powerless and can't do anything. No, It should be, oh, he's adapting well and he's changed his offense because he doesn't have CJ and it's working for a guy like Anthony Simons off the bench and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that is very unlikely to happen with Terry Stotts, and people won't hold him accountable for doing that. So that's just where we are. Anything else you want to touch on the stream?
Nope, I think that we about covered it.
Yep, I am very tempted to have a Blazers Surprise stream on like Saturday. If you guys want, just because we're missing post game streams. Just to kind of fill the void and maybe do another picks against the spread, because we're only got 3 games today, and then we didn't do any Monday, so maybe I'll tweet out tomorrow on Friday if we're gonna do that or not. I'll decide. I'll obviously talk to Eric and talk to you guys and whatnot and see what we should do. So anyway, that's a wrap for the stream. Thank you for tuning in. We'll have, if we don't have that stream on Saturday, then the next time we're streaming is hopefully going to be Sunday is our next game.
Post-game Sunday, yeah. I think we play
Sunday,
Monday back-to-back.
Is that what time do we play on Sunday?
I think it's 6.
We play at 7 p.m. Okay, I'm cool with that. That's against the Knicks. So... obviously any game could be canceled. So, maybe the Knicks have issues or we have issues or who knows. But, assuming that game goes on as planned, we'll definitely stream Sunday night. We'll see maybe about doing just a one-off Blazers Surprise Live on Saturday, just to kind of fill the void, because I know you guys miss us. So anyway, hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Hope you guys have a good Friday tomorrow. And we'll see you guys at some point this weekend. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.